How you doing? It's Zach Allen. You know, a question I get so often in lessons is, how come I can't hit my driver well, but I can hit my irons? Or I get the opposite. You know what? I'm hitting my irons really well, but I get to my driver and it just does not work. So it's really important to be able to understand the subtle differences in not just our setup, but in just our swing motions in general. All right, so let's go ahead and break it down and figure out exactly what we do differently in order to go from hitting an iron well to hitting a driver well. Right, we know obviously, like our irons, we're going to hit down slightly, and our driver, our goal is to come in level or maybe slightly upward. That's a big reason for just those initial changes where I take my trail foot and I start to put it back, right? This driver ball position up here, right, it starts on my inside lead heel, and as I start to move my trail foot backwards, that's actually taking the bottom of my swing and putting it farther back. Right, which is ideal for hitting a ball off of a big tee with a club that doesn't have much loft. So, you know, it's going to feel like you're trying to hit this ball over the top of a big building in front of you, but the club has such little loft, right, say 9 degrees compared to, you know, a pitching wedge that has 46 degrees. So I've got a couple discs here, right? The purple disc is what it feels like when I'm hitting my driver well, as far as where my release point is. And then the green disc, we'll show you in a second, is going to be where the iron is. So we get into a driver, right? It starts off our lead, just our lead heel. We go into a wider stance, partially too just because we're going to be hitting the ball harder. But here's kind of one of the big tickets and what I want you to kind of think about. I'm going to move that out just to take a practice swing. I'm not actually feeling like I'm hitting the golf ball per se, okay? I feel like the club is bottoming out back here, and then I'm moving through to that tee. When people get in trouble with this driver, this club is coming down on too sharp of an angle. So it's got too much angle of a descent. It's going to increase the spin, decrease the loft, so it's going to be low launch, high spin, and it's going to put a lot of curve on that ball, especially with this very straight-faced club. So if you can actually just practice, put something down, a paper plate, a piece of tape, anything down there, that's really our goal with driver. We're coming down like this. The club is actually feeling like it kind of unloads itself, and then we're bringing it through. So check it out in slow motion. It unloads, and then we bring it through to our finish. So I would just start with slow rehearsals, feeling it unload, and then come through. I've seen Bryson, show you some video of him doing rehearsals like that. I've seen many players that feel a little different when they're trying to hit just high bombs with the driver, high, low spinning bombs. Low spin equals more roll. High launch, we get to maximize our carry, obviously. So we're just slowly unhinging. And when you go to do this, it feels like my pressure is moved to my lead side. As I go to kind of unhinge the club, it feels like my weight is a little bit later than what you're going to see with the irons. Like I get to my lead side, it's a couple milliseconds later than what I'm doing with the iron. So as you get more comfortable with that, you start to move through. And I realized this years ago. When I was out there and I've been driving the ball great for months and months, and I'm just taking practice swings, and I'm literally feeling my club is hitting the ground back here behind the ball. That cannot be good, right? And I'm like, no, I'm actually hitting my driver better than anything right now. And my practice swing, I never really realized it, but I'm actually unloading that club. I'm unloading these vertical hinges. I'm not holding on to them. Right, which a lot of people do, especially when they try to hit the ball harder. So I'm taking these practice swings, and you can't see it, but my club is actually hitting the ground back here somewhere, and that was one of my rehearsals before I went to hit. I'm not saying that you would have to make a practice swing like that. That's just what I was doing at the time, where it really occurred to me, God, if that was an iron, I would have hit a foot before the golf ball. But that was ideal for the driver. Okay, so once we get to an iron, right, we obviously have a little different setup. So you notice where I'm putting this green disc. That's kind of my intent, or where I want to be trying to hit in relation to the golf ball. So as I get set up here, I've got an 8 iron. I've got the ball about center in my stance, club about neutral. So as I'm going to hit this iron, my intent, even though the ball is lining up right here, I feel like I'm going to hit up by this forward disc, right? The green disc. And I'm going to do it carefully. Okay, most of you out here, when you first try to do this, you're going to lead with your upper body. That is not what we want to do. I call it a glide. Our lower body kind of glides forward. Okay, so right now my belly button lines up with the golf ball. it's going to glide up to this front disc. And you want to get nice and mobile in your feet and legs so that it can just easily glide. You don't want to dominate the downswing with the upper body, because see how this stifles this and it doesn't move? So what I feel here with the irons, because remember, the weight moves a little sooner and a little quicker than with the driver. We get to the top, there's that little press and glide forward, and then it feels like my divot is past the golf ball. I've had so many students that have come and they're taking lessons, and I didn't necessarily even give them the tip, unfortunately, but they go, you know what? I just kind of look past the ball. I imagine a ball out in front of the other ball, and I've just been hitting my irons better. I'm like, well, light bulb. It's a great feel, right? For an iron, not for the driver. So we're just practicing that little shuffle. I feel my feet and knees slightly shuffle towards the target, and that moves the low point forward so I can hit the ball, and the lowest part of my swing is actually up here where the disc is. So it's ball, then disc. And I'm doing it in a way, right, to where my upper body is being respectful. It doesn't move forward and over the golf ball. Now, if you did do this, expect it to come out really low. We can do that if you really want to hit one low. But for most normal iron shots, we want to keep our upper body, our upper center behind the golf ball and only be gliding this forward. So when we do it, it feels like that weight gets there sooner, right? Like my weight is there at impact, and then I'm into my lead side. I go back and forth from that into what I was feeling with the driver, and my weight is slightly delayed. You notice how I pull through just a couple milliseconds later. So that's it's the subtleties, because we're just trying to affect that angle of attack. With an 8-iron, we want to hit about 4 degrees downward. That's about this much. With a driver, 2 degrees up would be ideal. So you're not trying to affect that much. Probably half of it is affected by you changing your setup. The other half is how you move and how you kind of envision things to happen, right? And then obviously you can go ahead and hit a couple, because that's the next part of this, is a guy gets hitting his driver on the range. I'm hitting it really good. I'm finally hitting my driver good. You got to be able to go right away into hitting a good iron shot. And that's where the difficulty lies, right? We need to go back and forth between iron, driver, iron, chip, putt, bunker shot, all the different varieties that golf entails. So I'm going to feel that same kind of uncocking of my wrist, and then through to my finish just a tick later. That should work out great. You notice how the weight gets there just a hair late compared to what you're going to see with the iron. Now as I grab an iron, that felt pretty good. I hit up on the ball about 2 degrees there. My smash was 1.51. That's rare. Normally 1.50 is about as good as it gets, so I must have lucked out there. So now with this iron, I'm going to feel my legs just glide and push forward a little sooner than what was happening with the driver. So I feel that low point go from here up to here. Setup, impact. What's moving forward? My hands and my hips, not my head. I'm not doing it like this, right? That's the easy way to do it. We've got to kind of get the lower body a little more activated, and that actually moves the hands. I'm not moving my hands, I promise you. This is moving my hands. And that's the same thing we want here. And I could feel my pressure bang right into my lead side. That really helps with the compression. And then let's hit an iron shot with that same feel. Oh, that felt good. So that was a nice ball. I hit down about 6 degrees, and that 8-iron went around 155. So that was pretty good as far as those back-to-back shots in terms of, okay, go from an iron to a driver, iron to a driver. You should do that on the driving range, but then even more importantly, when you get out to the golf course, think of the time that's spent in between shots where you're not able to just keep hitting and keep hitting. You kind of get cold, right? You should be able to really do this very quickly eventually, because sometimes it might be 5 or 10 minutes before you go from hitting an iron to your next driver shot, right? Get really good at those release points and those release feels, and you'll start hitting all your clubs better through the bag. You won't be that one-hit wonder who can only hit his irons or only hit his driver. I hope that helps you out. If it did, subscribe. Give me a comment if it did. Let me know your thoughts even, and I will see you next time around. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for a way to get more consistency in your golf swing, then I've got just the thing for you. I've put together a 3-part training series where I walk you through an easy process with one goal in mind. giving you a more efficient, athletic, and consistent golf swing. I call it the Consistency Clinic. And you can get the entire thing free of charge by clicking the link right here. This training series isn't available anywhere else, so go ahead, click the link right now, and I'll see you on the other side.